we are going to look at denotation and end time of a geometry progression. Now, how do you find, what are the terms, the things you see in geometry progression? The first thing is there is A. A, this is denotation. A means the first term. A is the first term. Now, R is the common ratio. R is the common ratio, which I did earlier in our previous lesson. Now, you use UN. UN like this means the end term. End term of a what? Of a GP. Now, this GP at times you see exponential sequence, the same thing. Geometric progression and exponential sequence, they are the same thing. Then we also have what? Sum of term. So these are what? Sum of end term. Sorry. Sum of end term of a GP or exponential sequence. So these are the denotation. These are the things that makes up the formula which you are going to be using. Now, what is now the formula for the end time of a geometric progression? Let me clean this, so I'll just write the formula for you. So you just follow along. The formula is very simple. You just apply the rules there, then you are good to go. Now, the formula goes like this. Now, for the first term, now, this is the formula. The formula for the end term of a geometric progression or exponential sequence, it is A R n minus 1. So this n is the number of what? Number of term you are asked to find. Number of term given. Number of term. So it means if I'm looking for the first term now, first term here, it is just ordinary A. You should know that. Now second term, let me just do that. The second term means my n now is 2. That would be A R 2 minus 1. And 2 minus 1 is 1. R raised power 1 is still 1. R raised power 1 is still, anything raised power 1 is still the same letter. So it means the second term is what? A R. If I'm looking for the third term, the third term will be what? A R. Now it is the n is not 3, now it will be 3 minus 1. That is what? A R raised power what? Raised power 2. If it's fourth term, you don't have to, you know what to do. It should be what? You should just go straight go forward or go straight to the point. So A R raised power what? Raised power 3. So if it's fifth term, and that is how it's continue going. There's nothing there. So the fifth term will be what? That will be A R raised power what? Raised power 4. So this is the end time of a geometry progression. So let's now look at some question under this and how we can solve them. Now let's assume now, like the first, when I was doing introductory aspects of this, let's assume we are given some, let's say you should find the let's say they said you find the ninth, let's say ninth term of this find the terms of the following exponential. Now I told you exponential and geometric progression, they are the same thing. They can be used interchangeably. Exponential sequence. Like let's assume you give me something like this. You have 3, 6, 12 and 24. Let me make it more complex now. Let's say you have 5, 2 whole number 1 over 2. It's possible. You give me something like this. 1 whole number 1 over 4. Then 5 over 8. You have to find the nth term, the ninth term of each of them. And you know that the ninth term, just write the formula here. The ninth term will be A R raised power. This will be 9 minus 1 because it's 9, number of term, which is A R raised power what? Raised power of 8. Okay, this is the ninth term. So how do you now solve this now? No common ratio now. The first time here, the first number. So for the first one, so this is number 1 and this is number 2. And the first one, your A, that is what? That is 3. That is the first number. That is A. then your how is the common ratio. A common ratio, you divide this by this or this by this. 6 divided by 3, it will give me what? It will give me 2. So using in this formula now, so it means my u9, that is the ninth term, will now be what? A, that will be 3 times what? 2 raised power of what? Raised power of what? Of 8. Did you get that now? So you don't say 3 times 2 6 raised power. You don't do that. You have to follow laws of BODMAS. You do the one in what? Exponential first, the one raised to power. So u what? u9 is what? 3 times 2 raised power 8. 2 raised power 6 is 64. 7 is 128, and I think 8 128 times 2, sorry for this, times 16, that's 256. Yeah, if I'm right, that is 2 what? 250 what? 256. So when you multiply this together, 3 times 256, 3 times 6 is 18, 3 times 5 15, plus 1 is 16, made than 1, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is what? Sorry, what is this? Come on, stop this. That is this what? This is what? 7, right? Oh, this is wrong now. Come on. Sorry for this. This is what? This is what? 766. That is the answer for that one. So let's now move on to the second one. The second one, there is a fraction here, so you have to be very careful of how you solve this. Just take it gently. Now what you're going to do here is that let's calculate together. Now this one now, so the same thing, the same formula we're going to use, AR8, but the first time here, your A is what? Is 5. Now common ratio here is that you divide this by this. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 4, that plus 1 is 5, that's 5 over 2 divided by, it's just like saying over, just get that, divided by what? Divided by 5 over 1, and divided by this 5. This one, any number standing is over 1. I just want to let you to understand how this thing goes. So how here is equals to 5 over 2. In your primary school, you are told to change this division to times. That will be times. This one will go up, this one will come down. 1 over what? Over 5. 5 here, 1. 5 here, 1. 1 times 1 is what? 1. 2 times 1 is what? Is 2. So the common ratio is 1 over 2. Now using it in our formula now, you now have, our first time is 5. So you have, so your u9 here, the ninth term, will now be what? 5 times 1 over 2 raised power what? Raised power what? Raised power 8. Right? So it's just the same thing. What will happen here is that you have what? u9, that is the ninth term here, will now give us what? 5 times 1 over 7, 6, 8. That is it. So 5 cannot divide this, it's not possible. So your final answer will be what? 5 over 7, 6, 8. So this is your final answer for this one. So let's look at another question from the notes. Let's solve some question under the notes, then we'll round up with this particular lesson. No, this one is too simple. Let's look at another one. Okay, let's look at this together. Let me copy this. I just wanted to some question, though we are still going to look at, sorry. Okay, I shouldn't be doing this, but let me just, I have to, for you so that you understand it better. Let me snap this. It's an example, just feel like we should do it together. It will what? To make us to have a broad understanding of this particular topic. Now let's go here. Let me clear all this. Sorry for this. Okay, now the question goes like this. Okay, let me paste this there. There are a lot of questions in the notes. After this particular lesson, there are a lot of questions, so I want you to try it on your own. The solution are also there. If you have any problem, let me know in the comment section. I'm going to reply you immediately. Now they said the eighth time of a GP is minus 7 over 32. Find its common ratio if its first time is what? Is 28. Now you know the eighth term, so it means u raised power of 8. You know the formula will be a how raised power what? Raised power 7. You know that, right? Because this is 8th term. Now they now say this 8th term, or this thing here, it is minus 7 over 32. It means 8 term is minus 7 over 32. That's what it means. As the 8 term of a GP is minus 1 over 2. Find its common ratio is equals to, what did they say the first time is 28, right? That is 28 how raised power what? Raised power of 7. That is what this thing means. Did you understand? You should understand this now. Now, if I were you, I want to make this out to stand alone, so I can do over 1, no problem. What am I going to do? I'm going to what? Cross multiply. So I'm going to have minus 7, because minus 7 times 1 is minus 7, equals to, so 32 divided by 32 times, I'm going to use my calculator here. Just give me some seconds, please, for this. Okay, now we have 28 times 32. 28 times what? 32. That is 896. What I did was I multiplied this by this. So I have 896 how raised power what? Raised power 7. So I'm going to divide both sides by what? By 896. So divide both sides by what? By 896. By what? By 896. So this will cancel this. I'm left with how raised power what of 7 equals to minus 7 over 896. So the next thing I'm going to do is that I should be able to divide this. 7 here is 1. 7 is 896 is 128. So I have how raised power 7 equals to minus 1 over 128. Now I'll transfer this raised power 7, I'll transfer it, it becomes 7/2. So what I'll have is what? How equals to 7/2. And now you call it, the 7 is going to be here, then minus 1 over 128. 7/2 of 1 is minus 1 is still minus 1. So there's no problem over that one. So how equals to minus 1. This means what number you multiply in 7 places that will give us minus 1 is still what? 1 is still 1 time minus 1 times minus 1 times minus 1 times minus 1. If you multiply minus 1 in 7 places, you still get what? You still get minus 1 over what number are you going to multiply in 7 places to give us 128? If you multiply 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 2 in 7 places, you get 128. So the answer is what? 2. So this is your common ratio. This is your final answer. So in our next class, we look at sum of term in a GP. So let's move on.